Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of today's episode is, What's That on Your Face? Notes and News About Noses. So, John, we're going to be talking about noses.
I love it when you throw a lot of alliteration into the subtitle. It adds. I know the show's going to be extra good.
I think I just naturally go. I think there's some sort of mental thing with it, something OCD or something. I just become fixated with having alliteration in there. But it's notes and news about noses, and
notes and news
obviously,
about noses. Good actor warm up.
Yeah. Yeah, I blew it when I was saying it when I started because I should have prepared. And it's just, just noses, the other body part that people stress about because of its size and length, I think.
It's really weird if you think about it. You've got this way of interacting with the universe through this weird thing on your face that senses the reality through breathing and sniffing.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
It's your snorkel. It's your snorkel.
Yeah, it's your snorkel. You're so strange.
So before we begin, just a few questions just to get it out there. Do you like your nose?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know you're in the entertainment business. I don't know if you've ever thought about having some work done on it or
No, I'm pretty good with my, I'm pretty good with my body, I don't really, I know I can only go so far with it, it's not, I'm not going to be able to take this thing anywhere,
If you get
I'm just happy. I'm happy with what I have.
Yeah. Never crossed your mind, like never little tip.
No, never. No.
Yeah. All right. Where do you get your nose? Is that a Lehr nose or is that a?
Yeah, this is totally a Lehr nose. It's big. It's perfect. It's the perfect size unless you go full on, alcoholic, and then which most of the family has, and then it gets really big. We're Irish. Where my family is very Irish. In fact, you might find this interesting. I just was speaking with my cousin at the Chief when I saw the Chiefs in Las Vegas. Right. He happened to be there, and so we saw him the night before, and he had done one of those genetic tests. Turns out I'm almost all Irish, but Lehr is a German.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
He thinks that they just changed it to not be Irish when we were, coming off the boat.
Okay. Well, it worked. Whatever it is, it's worked.
Yeah, it worked.
The second question, and this is a little personal.
Oh, boy.
So if you don't want to answer it, feel free not to answer it.
I will say right now that I'm uncomfortable answering it, whatever it is.
Okay, all right. Do you pick your nose?
Oh, God, yes. Oh, I thought you were going to ask something personal, like about my feet or something. I don't know. No, hell yeah. Oh, my God, yes.
Do you pick it a lot? Do you pick it a lot?
No, only when something's up in there that needs to come out. But, no, I'm not a big nose picker, but I blow my nose every morning.
Yeah.
But you know what I never do is clogging off one nostril and then blowing it onto the street.
That's awful.
Oh, when you see people do that, it's just horrid.
Yeah.
It's just wrong, everybody. That should be illegal. You should be put in jail for that.
I always thought that was like a European thing or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all cultural for me that I just clog one nostril. Right.
I live in a big Armenian neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think it is a more European kind of thing.
I don't know. I guess you don't have to wash handkerchiefs. That's for sure.
I guess. But then we all have to look at it. That's the problem I have.
So, I just want to say with this topic, this episode, we're going to just we're just going to rap about the nose. Just see
Okay.
what's come up in anthropological nose research over the last few years. And I know in a prior episode, we talked about smell and about how we interpret smells in the brain. And, to use a bad analogy, if smelling and interpreting smells are our software for
Yes.
smelling, then
Yes.
today we're looking at the hardware. We're looking at the actual nose itself, the
Excellent. Oh my God.
the
Good.
external nose.
Yeah. You're going into the equipment.
Right, right.
Like if
We're
this were
looking
a
at
show on computers, we'd be talking about the mouse
right,
right now. Or
right.
yeah, uh-huh.
So that's where
Oh,
we're going with this.
okay.
Uh,
Good.
and I'm going to tell you right up front. Researching this episode, the more I read a bunch of books about noses, a bunch of articles about picking your nose. And the more I read, the more I had the urge to pick my nose.
Yeah, it makes you
And
because you're thinking about it. Yeah,
right.
that's like anything. That's like, oh, it's there are mosquitoes out, and you start getting bit before you start getting bit. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was odd because when we did our episode on hair, I didn't feel
Mhm.
like touching my hair. And obviously when we did our episode on masturbation, I didn't feel like
Thank
touching
God.
myself. Yeah.
That would be a call to HR right there
Yeah.
for your partner.
We do have an HR department. There's only two of us, but we do have an
Yes.
HR department.
Forms would be filed.
But there was something about the note. And right now I'm thinking about, I see a Kleenex over on my desk here. I want to blow my nose right now,
Well,
even
go
talking
ahead.
about
It's
it.
okay. It's just
No,
me.
no, no.
No, I could cut it out of the YouTube feed. By the way,
Like,
if you haven't signed up for our Facebook page or our Instagram, you got to do it because Professor McCray is posting some really, really amazing stuff, including a comparison between Don Knotts of the Andy Griffith Show and Mussolini, the strongman fascist of
yeah,
Italy. Yeah,
yeah.
Jesus.
Comparisons, contrast, and compare. That's
It's
the pop
amazing.
quiz.
It really is.
But anyway, if you see me start to go, I mean, a Kleenex is one thing. You'll probably see the Kleenex. But if you see a finger start to inch up towards my nose during this, please, please let me know. Please
Okay, I will.
signal me somehow.
I'll signal you, but it's okay. You just do what you got to do up there, and I'll cut it out of the YouTube. Nobody will
You
have to see
promise?
it.
You promise?
Yes, yes.
There's something that people love posting. Not that you're a celebrity. I'm not a celebrity, but
I'm a
people
Q level celebrity. One
people would
notch above.
people would still probably post a picture of you picking your nose online somewhere. People love
What?
posting. People love
God
posting.
damn it!
Celebrities
People we
picking their
know
nose.
picking their nose.
Yeah,
God, we're weird, aren't we? What's
yeah.
wrong with us?
But I will say, if you're in your car right now listening to this, and the more we talk about it, and the more you listen to it, and you feel like
You need to
taking
clean
care
the
of some
gate.
business,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
please feel free to have at it. I mean, that's that's kind of what the purpose of being in a car is all about. I think it's
It's reminding you that, hey, maybe you should check for boogers up there and get your breathing flowing properly.
yeah. I was thinking that maybe that's the entire reason, or like another reason for inventing the car was just to have a box where we could go somewhere and pick our pick our noses.
Yes. You don't want to think about where they put the booger after they,
Right,
get it
right.
out. That part you don't want.
I had an uncle who like tore a ligament in his finger or a tendon in his finger by trying to flick a booger out of his car one time, out of his car
What?
window.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, so it can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. And you remember there was an episode of Seinfeld years ago where Jerry's like sitting in his car at a stoplight and he goes to scratch the right side of his nostril or his right nostril, like the right side of his nose.
Yeah.
And a woman he's dating pulls up at the light next to him in a cab. And she looks
Yes.
over, and from her perspective, it looks like his finger is like way up his nose.
Oh, I didn't see
So,
that one. How is
no,
it
really?
possible I haven't seen that one?
I know, and that became the whole episode. And I'll try to post it. I'll try to find it online. But it was very
Okay.
funny. I don't know. Do you? Is Seinfeld still hold up? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. No,
I
not really. I mean,
Yeah,
if you squint, I think it can, but I don't know. There's like, there's a lot of sexism there. There's also the clothing,
yeah,
the
yeah,
'80s. Oh my God, it's just like I can't get past the shoulder pads. But
yeah.
there is lots of. I mean, those are well written shows for
Oh, they're
sure.
great. Yeah, really well written. But I was just wondering, you never hear people talking about Seinfeld, and I only thought of that when I went to find that clip.
Yeah,
And the clip was in '92, so it's been like it's been 32 years since that
Jesus.
clip came out. But
Yeah. So see, nobody's interested in what happened then anymore.
but Friends is still Friends is still
That was an
popular.
odd outlier. That was just a
Yeah,
weird thing that caught fire. And thank
yeah.
God I did one episode because the checks keep coming.
Oh, really? So anyway, let's get down to business. The
Yeah.
matter at hand, so to speak. Noses. So the first thing we need to talk about, John, is the purpose of the nose.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
obviously, we breathe through the nose, like we talked about already. Um,
Yes.
we talked about it's the snorkel, but I would say too, if we were tires, to use another analogy, if we were tires, our nose would be the valve stem going into
Hmm.
our tire.
Whoa.
And yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Should we pause for that and just let people think about that for a while? Let it
Yeah.
sink in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
got a lot of
absolutely right.
good analogies today, or bad analogies, but I got a lot of analogies. Uh, but the nose also performs other important functions for humans. And the first of all, it protects us from dust, allergens, and viruses. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's the main purpose. That's what boogers are, right? It's the way to trap some of the stuff we don't wanna be pulling into our lungs.
Right, exactly. In her book, The Nose, A Profile of Sex, Beauty, and Survival, Gabrielle Glaser says that the mucous membrane produces a pint and a quarter of mucus a day,
Ooh.
which is flushed out of the sinuses by thousands of tiny cilia or hair-like filaments.
A pint a day?
A pint a day, and then
That's
it's
so much boogers. I'm thinking like a pint glass, when you go to
right.
Europe and you drink a pint of Guinness. Jesus!
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, where is it
Well,
all?
well, some of it dries, like you said, because of it's a booger.
Mhm, right.
And one of the reasons I also read a book called "Why You Shouldn't Eat Your Boogers" by
Mm.
Francesca Gould, and she says that the reason why mucus is sticky is that it's trying to catch all that pollen and stuff. That's a reason why
Yeah.
it has to be sticky.
Right, right. I get that. It's like a fly trap, like one of
Right.
those tape fly traps you put in your kitchen.
Right, right. Or a mouse. If you've ever used the strip mouse
Oh,
trap, those are
oh, it's
awful.
the worst. It's the
Yeah,
worst because the
yeah.
thing's still alive. That's the worst, the worst.
Right, right. That just
Boy,
creates another problem.
I caught a really smart rat in our kitchen years ago. He kept avoiding all of the traps and everything, and I
Oh,
saw that he would come. I saw where he'd come out, so I put some of that sticky stuff there. Caught
yeah,
him the
yeah,
next day. Oh, it was so horrible,
yeah.
horrible. But I
What'd
got
you have
him.
to do with him? What'd you have to
I
do?
put him in a. All I could think to do was put him in a plastic grocery bag and tie it
Yeah,
really tight because I just
yeah,
don't. I know it's unfair, but I just didn't have the heart
yeah.
to smash his head or something. So I just
Was
put
there
him in
a
a plastic bag.
begrudging respect, like between two warriors, of
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah, we had because I had tried everything. I had tried gluing. I went on
yeah,
YouTube and a guy. I clicked on a video where the guy says, "So you're having trouble catching your rat? This is a surefire way." And his idea was to hot glue. Maybe I talked about this hot glue because we did an episode on rats. But you
right,
hot
right.
glue a piece of dog food to the trigger of the trap so that it
Oh
pulls at
God,
it and it can't get it off, and then you got him every time. And he was right. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Who's
But it's like a little
the dominant species now, huh? Who's the
yeah.
dominant species now?
We were smart enough to invent the glue gun.
Yeah. So I also, but coming back to Glaser, she says that most of that mucus that's produced will be taken down the back of the throat. Like you swallow a lot of that with the pollen and with the dirt and with the viruses, and that goes into the stomach, and then that's where the stomach acid destroys that stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah.
We're
But
so amazing. The body
yeah,
is incredible.
right. It's pretty cool. But you also have the visible nose hairs. Hopefully they're not too visible.
Especially, well, as you become a man, for those younger listeners out there, when you become an older man, hair starts growing in
Yeah.
weird ass places.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have had a nose hair that's strong enough to pull a pickup truck. And I'm like, what the hell? Or
Yeah.
out of my ear? What's happening with me? Do you have any of that?
Yeah, on the ears they'll grow
Oh,
overnight. They'll grow
I
overnight.
know. I had a little hair out my nose, and I pulled on it one morning
Yeah.
thinking it was a long one of my hair on the top of my head that I inhaled all night.
Oh
So I pulled it
God.
out thinking it was nose hair, and I could feel it coming down to my brain. Like it released some memories that I had never. It was the weirdest thing.
How long had it been up there? That's what I
I
want to
don't
know.
know. It was when I had long hair when both of us did. And I just pulled that thing out. It was like, whoa! And
You
it
have
was
a
just
repressed memory.
yeah,
Repressed
yeah.
I think don't they do that? Like there's certain a certain type of yoga where they like stick a cloth up their nose or something to clean out their nostrils. I can't remember, and then you pull it out. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh
Don't quote me on
God,
that one.
that's
Don't quote me on.
wrong. That's
I got
wrong.
I got to look that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the visible nose hairs are like our first line of defense for it,
Yeah.
and they'll usually take care of most of the big pollen, most of the
big stuff.
big. Yeah, yeah.
Like if you accidentally inhale your cat, your nose hairs are going to stop that.
Well, I remember when I was cleaning chimneys, like I would
Yeah.
be blowing black snot out of my nose for a week after I'd worked. So,
That job probably took a good month and a half off your life.
yeah, I got the black lung. But
That was a tough gig.
yeah. But then, and usually we'll get, take care of those when we sneeze. That's like we'll take care of the big stuff when we sneeze.
Mhm.
But the other important thing that the nose does is it helps regulate the temperature and humidity of the air that's entering our body. Okay.
Okay.
So just to give you a little background, there's a thing in physical anthropology, a rule that's called the Thompson nose rule.
Oh my God. Okay. We're just now getting to that?
I know.
That's
I'm
fantastic.
leading you up. I don't want to scare people off before we start getting too complicated. But Arthur Thompson was an anatomist in England back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he noticed that certain ethnic groups, like Northern Europeans, that originated in colder, drier climates tended to have longer, thinner noses. And ethnic groups that originated in wetter or more humid, hotter climates, for example, in Africa or near the equator across the world, tended to have shorter, wider noses.
Okay. Yes.
So Thompson wasn't really trying to explain anything. He was more just kind of putting it out there like, hey,
I've
you guys ever
noticed
notice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thompson.
And you remember when we talked about Darwin's theory of natural selection, and natural selection and evolution is basically a variation in species exists. Some variations by chance lead to increased advantages in certain environments. And those who survive are more likely to pass on these adaptations to their offspring. That's
It's
Darwinian
such
evolution.
a crazy theory to wrap your head around. But the key thing that if you're like, wait, what? The key thing is to remember it's over vast amounts of time.
Yeah.
That's the part that makes it feasible in my mind.
Right. We're
We
talking
keep,
about
we
millions
yeah,
of years. We're not talking
yeah,
about like a few generations or something.
right,
And so if you look at Thomson's nose rule and you consider its correlation to climate,
right.
it would seem like there is some kind of natural selection going on there. Like, obviously, people in colder climates have longer, thinner noses.
Somehow that
People,
helped a little
right,
bit.
and gave them an advantage.
Hmm.
And for the past 100 years, uh, we had the Thomson nose rule that people would always think about, but we didn't really have any hard objective evidence kind of verifying or supporting the Thomson nose rule. It was just something
Okay,
that seemed like it was, possible, but we didn't have the evidence.
okay.
And it there was no way to know if the width of the nose was actually due to natural selection or if
Mm.
it was due to something called genetic drift. And what
I've heard
genetic
this is
drift
this is ringing a bell. I remember this
is
from
it?
my biology class or something.
Okay, all right. Well,
Genetic
maybe
drift. I remember
if you
writing that down on a 3-ring binder somewhere and underlining it twice, thinking this is going to be a quiz
wow.
topic.
Well, pull a couple more nose hairs and maybe they come back to you. You could take
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It's like a boost. It's like a little boost to you.
A
Like, yeah, forget the ginkgo
superpower. My
biloba.
superpower. I'm,
But it,
I'm a superhero that when in trouble pulls out a nose hair.
just like jazzes you up. Just
Yeah,
jazzes you
like my spidey sense.
up. So genetic drift basically those are the traits that are caused just by chance, just by random fluctuations in a population's gene pool.
And
Okay, so that's
it just keeps coming back, but doesn't serve a purpose.
right,
It doesn't
exactly.
really help you. Like I guess red hair, or is that a totally different thing? That's a mutation, right?
That's a mutation, but the thing is, the fact that it keeps coming back in certain populations is more a genetic drift
I see.
as opposed to a natural selection. I think. I mean,
Got
it
it.
would be like most McCrays have big, round, bald heads and very blue eyes. So I don't think it certainly hasn't helped me in any environment. It's certainly not in the business or entertainment environment.
Well, you guys were miners, weren't you? That's what you kept
Yeah.
telling me. You guys are mining, so maybe
Yeah.
somehow it helps down there. But still, it's not enough time, so who knows why?
Right, right. But it's just the idea that, yeah, that comes back. It seems
Yeah,
to express itself, but it's not really like everybody doing it, or we're not
right,
evolving as a population to do that.
right.
And in 2017, there was a study done by some scientists and anthropologists called Investigating the Case of Human Nose Shape and Climate. So,
Boy,
so
what a way to spend our second nanosecond in existence. You know,
I know, I
you and
know.
I are spending it recording into computers, and those guys are doing it just studying a nose.
I
So
know, I know.
crazy.
I think they said I read an interview with one of them, and he was saying like, "Hey, we just like to look at things that are different in different people." So they were kind of doing
I
it.
get it.
Yeah, they were just picking something out. Like, why is that? Why is that?
Yeah, it's fun.
And the writer Brian Pankow, who spoke to them and wrote an article about the research, said that what the researchers did, is they took 3D scans of the noses of 2,500 people
Okay,
from the 4 different regions of the world.
okay,
And then they compared that information with the participants' ancestry. Okay.
okay.
So for first part, you look at you look at their nose and get a scan of their noses inside and out.
That's
Then you look at their ancestry.
okay.
And a couple things I found interesting, because I went in and I found the actual study and read the
Oh,
actual
of
study
course
as
you
well.
did. You're amazing.
But the researchers bring up some important facts for us to know when we're talking about noses.
Okay,
And they noted that, quote, inhaled air reaches 90% of the required temperature and humidity levels before even reaching the nasopharynx, implicating the nasal cavity as the major conditioning apparatus in the respiratory tract.
damn. So it's like a little air conditioner, heating unit in there,
Right, right.
humidifier. that
Yeah.
as the air comes in, it all works to make it the right temperature, the right amount of water in it, so that when it
Yeah.
hits the lungs, it serves us the best.
It's perfect. It's yeah, and to think that it's doing that all in like an inch and a half or whatever, however long your
Damn,
nose is,
that's crazy.
The other thing they said, not only that's the right temperature getting into our lungs, but by having the right temperature and right humidity, it acts to maintain the proper functioning of the mucous ciliary apparatus.
Okay,
So
what's that?
that's where we were just talking about the mucus
Oh,
and
the
the little
mucus maker.
hairs. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
keeping it sticky, keeping it producing what it needs to produce.
So
So,
maybe it pulls out the humidity for our lungs, but keeps it around for our mucus.
right, right.
My God, we're amazing.
Yeah. When you stick your finger up there, it just seems like an empty tube, but just think of everything that's going on in there. There's a
And
lot.
all this beautiful design by, Mother Nature and the universe and years and years
Yeah.
and years, thousands of years.
Yeah.
And what do we do with it?
Yeah.
We play video games.
We play video games or snort coke up.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But the researchers further noticed that low humidity in the respiratory tract leads to impaired mucous ciliary function and increases the risk of both upper and lower respiratory tract infections.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
I have a bit of that right now because
Do you?
I was just telling you before the record that I cough. I've been coughing,
Yeah.
so I guess
Yeah.
that's my mucus rolling down the back of my
Right.
throat too much. Maybe that's I don't know. Anyway,
That post
yeah,
nasal drip. You're feeling that
yes.
post nasal drip coming down your
I
throat.
tried to prop myself up, but I can't sleep that way.
Yeah.
Like I'm in an
Um,
armchair. No,
do you want to lay down now? Do you want to get up on the couch over here?
no, I'm all right.
Right. Well,
Thank you, though. I am
if you
tired.
want to,
I did not sleep well last night.
if you want to, go ahead and get on
Thank
the
you.
crawl up there, lay down,
Yeah, I have a
get a
loop
pillow.
video that I post of me, like it looks like I'm listening to you and nodding my head, but really I'm
Yeah,
asleep on the couch.
I like that, and we should just get like a still photo of you that we pop up, where it just looks like you're really listening,
Yeah.
with you.
Hmm.
So in other words, it's important that you have the right temperature and you have the right the humidity for the
Yeah.
stickiness to catch all that stuff.
Wow.
And the other thing that the researchers noted was that the efficiency of the air conditioning process in the nose depends on the flow dynamics of the inspired or breathed in air, which in turn depend on the geometry of the nasal cavity and inlets.
Wow.
So the structure of your nose, whatever your personal nose is influencing how that air is coming in and how it's being air conditioned, basically.
Wow. It might affect because oxygen is everything. So if it affects the flow of
Right,
oxygen, it could
right.
really affect our development
Yeah,
as an organism,
right.
right? If we're
Yeah, and that's
getting
what they're looking
better
at.
air,
Yeah,
wow. Maybe
yeah.
I always poo-pooed those oxygen bars, you know?
Yeah,
There was one on Sunset Boulevard in this weird round building where you could go in and order air
yeah.
and breathe it. I was always like, that just
Are they
totally
still
fucked me up.
there? Are they still
No,
doing that?
it did not last long, but it was there for a
I
little
wonder
while.
why. I wonder why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something else to spend money on. I mean, you
Yeah.
already have to spend money on water. No, it's why,
Yeah.
why not
Yeah,
air? Why not
exactly.
air?
Exactly.
But Mark Shriver, one of the researchers, noted that the narrower the nostrils or narrow nostrils seem to alter the airflow so that the mucus covered inside of the nose can humidify and warm the air more efficiently.
Interesting.
So what they found is like the actual area of the nostrils amongst humans around the world, the size of the nostrils are about the same. It's the shape of the nostrils that are different. And
Wow.
that shape causes turbulence.
I'm looking at my nostrils right now.
Yeah. It causes turbulence in the air when it comes into your nose. And that turbulence kind of helps warm that air inside your nose or cool that air.
Wow.
And Shriver compared it to a convection oven. So, so it's like you have a convection oven on your face, you know.
Yes. Wow. Now,
So
again,
let's
people are like, wait a minute, we didn't evolve that. But you got to remember, it's millions of years.
right,
And
right,
it's not like our bodies are inventing it. It just happens to be a trait that can
right,
express itself. And so it expresses itself more because it somehow helps us survive.
right. And basically the hypothesis went like this. The shape of your nostrils and the shape of the inside of your nose affects how well you condition the air entering your body in certain climates. That's the
Wow.
important thing. It's just in
Yeah.
certain climates,
Yeah.
which then affects how well the mucus removes viruses and pathogens from your body,
Wow.
which then affects how sick you become and therefore affects your overall survival rate in certain climates.
Wow. So really, we should have like a box that we all
Yeah,
carry with different little prosthetics that can fit over our nasal, our noses,
yeah,
to
yeah.
change the shape of our nostrils. So, like if I'm in Abu Dhabi, I put this on my
Oh
nose,
my
to
gosh.
make it this shape. If I'm in,
Yeah, yeah,
Brazil, I would do this. And
yeah,
you just have
yeah.
these little things that you clip onto your nose, giving you the best flow of oxygen for that climate.
Brilliant.
I'm
Stop,
gonna
stop. Don't throw that gold out there for
Yeah,
free.
don't steal that idea, you guys.
If I see that sometime, I'm gonna look back on who was listening to this podcast.
I
What
just
what
love
are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm
It's-
picturing what it would look like to
oh
fit on
yeah,
your nose,
yeah,
like with a strap, maybe. So it's sort of like a clown nose with a
yeah, yeah.
strap that goes around, but with different nostril sizes
But you
that
can
you would
make them
just
real trendy, like with flames on them or something,
Yeah,
or
yeah, oh yeah.
like
Once it takes off, yeah.
Nike. The Nike ones would have a swish on
Yes.
the side of
Oh
it.
my
Yeah.
god.
All
And then
right, we got it.
we could update them constantly. That's how you make the money. We learned that from Apple.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
constantly update them. Oh my
I
god, I love it.
That's money. What do we do in this? You're a gold mine. You're like
I know.
a
I'm
genius.
on fire
Genius.
today. Maybe it's the lack of air I got last night, coughing.
Yeah, we did that one. But that's a keeper. That's a keeper.
That's a keeper.
So what they found ultimately when they looked at all their data is the researchers found that basically the shape of the nose it was more prevalent. Like looking at how long evolution takes, it was more prevalent than what would have happened just in simple genetic drift.
I
Like
see.
it was more in other words, it indicated that or definitely the width of the nose was definitely correlated with the climate, meaning that there
Interesting.
was natural selection going on.
And it couldn't be anything else other than climate. Like, for instance, like, I don't know, like certain cultures develop to where a certain type of nose is more attractive, and then you propagate the species because you like their nose,
Yeah, yeah.
because it
Look
all
at
comes back to schooling, right? Doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. Look at
It's
you.
all
I was just getting ready to get there. I was
Oh
just
shit!
getting ready
I'm
to
so
get. Yeah,
sorry.
you're the
God,
guy. You are on fire
I'm
today.
on
You are.
fire. I don't know what happened. I
You
slept
are.
in a position where my nostrils were squeezed in such a way
Yeah,
that it made me
yeah.
more creative today.
Right. I mean, but that's exactly what people have said. Well, what about sexual selection? Meaning what you're
Yes.
talking about, cultural influence, where we find certain cultural noses more attractive. Exactly what you were saying.
What kind of nose do you find most attractive? What has Mary got?
Me, I don't know. To me, I go for any nose.
Yeah,
I
any
mean,
nose that'll take you.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
any nose
Our
that will talk back to me.
Let's be honest. If we didn't have society to protect everybody, and it was
Yeah,
still saber-toothed tigers and giant sloths and
yeah,
everything,
yeah.
our gene pool would have been eliminated.
Yeah.
So,
I would just go like lay out on a rock somewhere and die of sunburn.
uh,
And that would be it. A
I'd go
very
down in
short branch.
the first saber-toothed tiger attack. I'd be done. What did you guys say? And I
Yeah.
turn around and I'm dead.
Yeah.
What's
You're out
coming?
there. You're trying to feed it. Like, look,
Yeah.
we have to
Hey
show him. Just
guys.
be nice. Just be nice to him.
No, I love the idea that it's coming up from behind me and I'm saying to the tribe, where are you guys running? Where's everybody going?
What's the old joke? It's like in a bear attack, you don't have to run faster than the bear, just faster than the person you're with.
And that's true. That's
So,
absolutely true. That's a life lesson.
yeah. So now we're moving on. We'll look at, well, how has all of this been, how does it manifest itself culturally, or how has it been expressed culturally? And what's interesting is I found out that nose job, people have been doing nose jobs since like the 1500s.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And they were originally done to fix noses that had been damaged in warfare or dueling. Sometimes noses could be cut off as a sign of
Oh.
punishment for adultery.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I think
God.
it's in Our Flag Means Death. Like his Spanish Jackie has a jar, her nose jar. She always refers back to her nose jar where that character cuts people's noses off.
Wow.
But yeah, they would actually do that. But really, one of the common things back from like the 1500s through the 1800s was something called the syphilitic nose.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And what it was is syphilis was very common back at that time.
Oh my
And
God.
and syphilis will attack the soft tissues in the nose.
I mean,
And
and how do you get it? You just get syphilis, and once you have syphilis, the virus goes after that,
well,
which is
you get
somehow
syphilis. Yeah, you get syphilis through sexual contact, and
right.
then
But is it oral contact that causes the nose stuff, or does it just travel through your body once it's
it's
inside you?
through your body,
Wow.
And
Okay.
one of the manifestations of syphilis is it would attack the nose.
That's
And
so weird.
yeah, it's awful. It
That's
was
so
awful
weird.
reading about this. The other thing is it could be passed on. Syphilis can be passed on congenitally from an infected mother to her child.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so during that time in Europe, there were also children that were born and had syphilitic noses.
Oh man. And I guess what did it look like? Just tell us.
Oh, well, sometimes it would just eat the tip of the nose. Sometimes it
Oh.
would, like the bridge of the nose would collapse.
Oh.
Yeah. And sometimes you would basically, the entire nose would be destroyed. So you would have just a hole in the middle of a face.
Oh
So, yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's horrid.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was horrible reading about it. And actually, in his book, Making the Body Beautiful, A Cultural History of Aesthetic Surgery, Sander Gilman, who's a plastic surgeon in New York, has written a bunch of books about, the body and body image and body modification. And we'll come back to it at some point.
Not
But he
enough
says
for
that
him to just work on noses. He's got to go home and write about it. That
I
guy's
know he's written.
obsessed. Jesus.
Yeah, we should have him on sometime because
Yeah.
it's fascinating. He's written tons
Wow.
of books. But what he says is there's even some people who interpret it. Remember in Phantom of the Opera
Yeah.
and how they describe his nose and his disfiguration.
Yes.
They describe that as like maybe that was who is it, Gaston Leroux or someone who
Yes.
wrote the novel, and they're saying that possibly that description of his nose is a syphilitic nose that they were describing.
Jesus. Oh God.
Yeah, and if you think about like Lon Chaney, how Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera, that's basically what we're talking about with a syphilitic nose.
I see. God.
And the bad thing about it is you can't hide it. The nose is right out there in front. You know what I mean? You can't hide that.
Nope. It's not like
And
your muffin top. You're a sweater.
right, or putting a hat on for your baldness or something.
Yeah.
It's like it's so visible. And so there was a shame about having the syphilitic nose. And even when people would try to put on a mask and wear a mask all the time, people, would put two and two together and be like, or even if you were wearing a mask for some other reason, they would think, oh,
Yeah.
it's syphilis. It's syphilis.
Yeah. Jesus, that's
And
horrible.
and again, in 1775, Glaser states that there was a Swiss theologian named Johann Caspar Lavater who published a book called Essays on Physiognomy, designed to promote the knowledge and the love of mankind.
Okay. I
And
like that title.
yeah, but unfortunately, Lavater was saying, like, you can look at someone's face and tell what their moral character was.
Okay, here we go. Here
Okay.
we go. What's that called when you look at take measurements of the face and
Well, this was
record
phrenology,
phrenology? That's what I
and I
meant.
think in
That's what,
Quick Draw, you guys included
yes, we
phrenology in
did.
there.
Well, there was. I think you were the one who inspired it because you
Yeah,
had said that there was a period in the Wild West where before they discovered fingerprints, that they thought that everybody's ear was slightly different.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so you would have they would draw the ears of the outlaws that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to help you identify them.
That was high science at one time. That was high
Jesus,
science.
that's incredible.
Where you take the measurements of their head, and like everybody's head's different sized, and then
Right.
who knows how many people were hanged or imprisoned
Oh
because of
God.
the head
Yeah.
measurement.
Wait a minute. No.
Yeah, yeah. Can't. But anyway, physiognomy is different from phrenology. Kind of looks at like the shape of the skull, but
Mm.
physiognomy would look at the face itself.
Uh-huh.
And the idea was that, again, you would see the inner person by looking at their face, which just
Right.
seems absurd to me right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't anything new. Glaser says, it goes back to the Roman poet Ovid, who said that the truth of a man lies in his nose.
Wow.
So just the shape of your nose would tell what
Tells him everything you know. He needs to know.
right.
Wow.
And he said it only took a few seconds for him to sum up what a person was like. Just by
Oh,
looking
what
at
an
their face.
ass that guy was.
I
What's
know.
his name again?
Lavater, Johann Lavater. Great name, great title of a book. but it's like once you start reading it.
Oh, here comes Lavender.
Yeah.
He's gonna look at our
cover your
noses
face.
and tell me what an asshole I am.
Look away, look away. Don't let him
God,
see
I
your
hate it
face.
when he shows up to parties.
Yeah, just shaking his head the whole night.
Lavender knows everything. What a tough guy to hang out with.
I know. And so anyway, but it was this shame. And so what people started doing is there was a surgeon in Bologna, Italy, named Gaspare Tagliacozzi, who he started doing nose surgeries to repair these syphilitic noses.
How? What do? You cut it off, and then you take some skin from the butt and sew it on?
He would take skin from the arm, actually, at the time. But
What?
he would take skin from the arm and then put like a little mold on the inside where the nose usually goes, and then kind of sew that flap of skin from the arm onto the face.
Wow.
So,
With a thing underneath it, like a piece of wood or something underneath it.
Right.
Oh, God. Oh.
So, and the thing is, he, again, this was like high science. He was trying to do it to give people a way to go back out in public and escape the shame of the syphilitic nose. But of course, it left like terrible scars. Like people could still tell that why you had that surgery. You know what I mean?
His point is like, hey, better than before.
yeah, it's kind of like a win-win situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Listen, patient, you don't complain. We all have to look at you, and we're all saying this is better than what you had before.
Right, exactly. And then, Tagliacozzi, the Catholic Church got wind of it, and they excommunicated him because they said he was like fooling around with God's work, by God trying to go in. Yeah. And they say that eventually his process it fell out of favor because as advanced as it was at the time, the noses would still freeze in cold weather. Oh. And if you sneezed really hard, sometimes the nose would come off.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm laughing out of nervousness, by the way. Don't think I'm laughing like this. It's like Because it was awful reading about it. I had a lot of
Yeah, I
sympathy with
bet.
the people.
Oh God.
I think remember the movie Capaloo? It was a Western. Did you ever see that one with Lee
I don't think
Marvin,
so.
Jane
No.
Fonda? Uh, Lee Marvin plays two roles in it, but one is he plays a character who is a gunfighter who had his nose shot off in a fight and wears like a metal nose strapped around his head.
Oh wait, I think I have seen that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's
It's a
that
good one.
character from the Mad Max movie, the one that just came, the most recent one, where there's a guy who has a metal nose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Have you
Yeah,
seen that Mad Max one with
I haven't
Shirley
seen that
Theron?
one.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I loved it. Every people, it
really?
got mixed reviews, but I was just like blown away by the video, the optics, which is
Yeah.
incredible,
We should
incredible.
do a episode on apocalypses.
That is an excellent idea.
Yeah, I wrote that one down.
Oh, good.
Along with your nose box. Your nose
Yeah,
box
listen, don't steal that, people. That's good. Let's call it a nose box. I like that.
The nose box, yeah.
Oh, I love your
Ooh.
nose box.
People
Thank
have them.
you.
People,
Thank you.
look at
Yeah.
him. He's so arrogant, just flaunting that $4,000 nose box or something.
Yeah, boy, he's breathing good right now. Yeah. The turbulence in his sinuses are doing some real good work.
Yeah. We have to it's going to be like trying to come up with a USB port or something that people have to buy, like a plug to go with it.
Yes,
and a
that's how
case.
you make the money. Then we change the port every time, and you've got, you want the new news?
Yeah.
You got to get new nose box. You got to get the new cord.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, enough of that.
God,
People are
okay,
listening.
stop it. Don't steal it.
And then in 1854, there was a guy named George Jabet who wrote a book called Notes on Noses.
He's after your own heart.
I know. That's the reason why I came back to it. And Jabet described the different types of noses and the character that each nose implied.
No.
Okay.
Again, what a dickhead at a dinner party. Oh. Here he comes. He knows everything.
Yeah.
Get ready.
You didn't invite George, did you? Yeah.
Oh man.
So he has like the Roman or aquiline nose, indicated great decision, considerable energy, firmness, and absence of refinement. So you were powerful.
Was he Italian?
No, I think he must have been French. George Jabet, but it was published in London, I think. So I don't know where. Maybe originally it was. Then there was the Greek or straight nose, had refinement of character, love for fine arts. He said this was the highest and most beautiful form the organ can assume. Mm-hmm. And then he had like the Jewish nose, of course, because of course they're going to talk about the Jewish
always
nose.
Anti-Semitic. It all flows in. Let me guess. Yeah. It's not a great nose. It means you're what?
What do you think? It was shrewdness in worldly matters, facility of turning that insight into profit.
Of course. It always goes back to the money. The Jews love the money.
It's
which,
just
if you look at history, it's because it was money changing was the only thing Jews were allowed to do.
Yeah, they succeeded at that in spite of themselves. And then people got pissed off at them for that too.
Yes.
It's like what else can we do? We have to live. You have to do something to live. And then he had the snub nose, which is like the little tiny nose, which he said actually represented natural weakness.
Oh,
so again,
I think little noses are cute.
Yeah, but again, it's like basically it's the wide nose that you would find in like Africa or
I see,
near the equator. So it's kind of tying back to what we were talking about, the evolution of the nose just being a natural thing that just happens as an adaptation to a climate. But here you have people taking it and like applying that just the natural shape of your nose that you inherited to somehow a moral judgment about you yourself,
Yeah. Well, that's the shadow side of anthropology, isn't it?
Right.
It's like when it's misused.
And it is kind of interesting that in the book, because I went and picked up the book and found it online and you can read it. He
You're
goes
amazing.
through and lists examples of all the people with these different types of noses. And it's just him kind of like just bashing people or historical figure. And how can you argue? He's like, it's not me. It's not me. It's
Yeah.
their nose.
Yeah.
That's just the way they are. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just telling you the science.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Interestingly, he did talk about national noses, of course, like how each nation has a characteristic nose.
God.
And he usually hated all non-Anglo-Saxon noses,
Uh-huh.
of
Surprise,
course.
surprise.
But Glaser even notes, and I went and checked it in the book. He especially though hated the new American nose.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yes. Because we were
and
uncouth and spitting tobacco and shooting
right,
people. We haven't changed
right.
that much.
Yeah, and he said the reason he hated it is he said, well, the Americans, all they do, they turn their back on all the refinement that they had inherited, all the honor they had inherited from their English forebears.
Mm,
And then what they did is that all they did was think about making money.
yeah.
Or just all they were doing was trying to make a living, a profit. That's all the
Yes.
Americans were doing.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
said, therefore, their noses demonstrated them to be an unthinking people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said their noses are thin and sharp, and as a national nose, the most unthinking of any of the Gothic stock is what his
Wow.
words are.
He hated America.
I know. I kind of like when I look at my nose from the side, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of thin and sharp. I got the American nose, the
You have
unthinking nose.
the nose.
I got.
I don't know what I have. Mine's like bulbous.
Yeah, it's not that. I'll post that, and you can
Yes.
take a look at because he's got charts in that book where we can
Oh,
take a look
that's
at and see that.
great. So you can figure out what you are. I love
Yeah.
that.
Another thing that happened at the turn of the 1900s, where people started to think that, like, they started to attribute the nose to all kinds of medical problems.
Hmm.
So you had people would think that, well, if a kid had like swollen adenoids and was breathing through his mouth,
Right.
then obviously that was a sign of low IQ because
Oh
it just
my
like he was,
God.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So instead of
Jesus.
just recognizing it that it was, hey, this is just somebody with swollen adenoids and has trouble breathing through their nose, they attributed like an intelligence factor to that as well.
Jesus.
And then
I hate not being able to breathe through my nose. I hate
yeah,
that. If I have a
yeah,
cold, I'm just miserable. I hate it.
yeah, you could tell how for people who have chronic sinusitis or chronic rhinitis, it affects your life. I think it
Yeah.
really you have trouble. Everybody's like, it's just a stuffed up nose. But it's like, no, you have trouble sleeping, which begins to
Yep.
affect your concentration. You have
Yep.
trouble concentrating, all of
I
this
can't
stuff.
take it at all. I go right to
Yeah,
the Afrin, then I get addicted to it.
yeah.
Then I have to take myself off the Afrin because Afrin will after a while Afrin will create a clogged nose. So you
Oh,
still need this, yeah.
yeah.
So then I
Ooh,
have to wean myself off, and right when I wean myself off, the next cold comes in and it starts all
yeah.
over again.
You mentioned before doing a lot of blow back in the 80s.
Sure did.
Did you have problems with your nose when you were doing that, or did you?
Well, I have trouble smelling things.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's because of all the smoking and coke that I did or what,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
do not have a good sense of smell and my hearing's going. So from
Really?
all the loud music I think that I listen to, yeah, my
Yeah,
family
yeah.
tells me. So I've got 3 of the senses working, but 2 of them are in trouble.
Yeah, just touch. As long as
Yeah,
you just
I got
touch left.
touch and I got eyesight as long as I wear my glasses. Now that I think about it, I'm not doing too well in the sense category.
Yeah. Another thing that was kind of crazy at the end of the 1800s was saying that the nose, like symptoms in the nose, demonstrated sexual problems.
Oh boy.
And there was a guy named doctor in Berlin named Wilhelm Fliess
Oh,
who
Wilhelm.
who published a book in 1897 titled "The Relationship Between the Nose and a Woman's Genitalia."
What?
Yeah. Obviously, Fleece was a friend of Sigmund Freud's. I mean,
Oh
they
boy.
corresponded with letters. They both did a bunch of coke together. They were both like doing coke. Um, and
Wilhelm, pass me the
and
line. Pass me
yeah,
the
yeah.
mirror, Wilhelm.
And when it came to hysteria, women's quote unquote hysteria at the time,
Yeah.
Fleece believed that the only surgery that would relieve it was nasal surgery.
What? God,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
things they did to women.
I know
Jesus.
it's crazy, and so and there's a horrible story about like all kinds of nasal surgeries being done on one of Freud's patients who was a woman who was depressed, and
Oh.
Fleece just kept going in and like doing surgery on her nose and removing her
Oh.
nasal
Oh
bones, and yeah,
God.
it's really
Hey.
horrible. But anyway, Glaser notes that in a letter to Freud, Fleece wrote, "Women who masturbate are generally dysmenorrheal, meaning they have, you know, uh, difficult periods, basically." And he
Hmm.
says they can only be finally cured through an operation on the nose if they
Jesus.
truly give up the bad practice. So,
Jesus.
yeah,
God.
just cuckoo-ness having to
Oh.
do with the nose.
Oh.
Uh,
The
the other thing
hubris.
that
The hubris to
yeah,
think that you figured it out is so
yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah, it's really awful. Like I don't know how we people made it, how women made it, basically, because
Yeah.
it was just like
Yeah.
uh, another thing that they did is people began to fixate on their noses as a sign of their racial stereotypes.
Hmm.
So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, different people from different ethnic groups who were minorities, for example, or stereotyped groups would have plastic surgery to try to fit in
Right.
or to try to pass in the dominant culture. And again, to me, looking back on it, you're like, you know, why was that even a thing? Why did people have to worry about how they looked? Um, but again, you read the literature about plastic surgery, and you don't know how it affects people or
Mhm.
what people make their own choices when it comes to plastic surgery. But that's where the time when you had like Jews in Germany trying to have nose jobs to look less Jewish.
Yeah.
You had African Americans in America trying to have nose jobs to look less African American.
Hmm.
Um, and there was something even you had. Uh, there was something called the Irish nose or the pug nose. And again, a lot of surgeries were done at that time in America to to take away the pug nose or the Irish nose and try to make them look more American, basically.
Hmm.
And
More Anglo-Saxon American.
right,
Mhm.
exactly. And there's a guy, Sander Gilman, who we talked about before. He talks about that there was a real fear in like the dominant culture that minorities or other people were having these surgeries done to pass. So,
Right.
like the dominant culture got scared, like, oh, now we can't tell who anybody is anymore. We can't
Yes.
tell their moral character because of it.
Yes.
And isn't that screwed up?
So
Isn't
screwed
that
up.
screwed up?
Oh
So,
God. You just put it on the list of terrible things we've done to each other.
yeah, yeah. So, John, just quickly now, just to wrap up, we'll start getting a little more personal about picking the nose.
Yes.
Uh, Picking the nose has been around like probably since we've always been here as humans, picking our noses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a
Uh,
finger that fits perfectly up there.
yeah, but there was the kind of the social faux pas of picking your nose has been around for at least 500 years. There was a book that came out in the 1500s that told people not to pick their noses. It was a manners book at the time. Um, and then it's like there's been research done or surveys done about people picking their noses and and like trying to there were some researchers who sent a survey back in 1995 to a bunch of people in Dane County, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And it why Dane County, Wisconsin, I don't know. That's just where the University of Wisconsin is. Maybe that's why
Right.
they did it. I don't think Dane County is known for necessarily known for people picking their noses. But
What's
anyway,
the town that Milwaukee, right? That's where they is it Milwaukee where the no.
Madison.
Madison.
Madison, yeah.
That's a fun place to go, Madison.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had some good times up there.
But anyway, they sent the survey out to 254 people. 91% of their respondents confessed to picking their noses, while only 1.2% admitted to picking their noses at least once each hour. So, I don't know. The problem is, I guess they sent it out to more people, but only 254 people responded.
Okay, that seems not great. No, those aren't great numbers.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like if you got that survey in the mail, like what would you do? Like if somebody's like, "Hey, how often do you pick your nose?" Like,
I'd be like,
"Get out of here! What are you talking about?
Leave me alone."
The other thing that there was a study in India who they tried to just give it out to a bunch of students who had to respond to the survey. And what they found was kind of the same thing, that a lot of people are picking their noses. And what was interesting, a lot of people just said, well, I do it because it feels good.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, the term for, yeah. It just feels good. It just feels good.
I don't know.
I was thinking about, there was nothing worse than being in high school and you drop your pencil and you have to go look under the desk to get your pencil or something.
Oh, God. All the boogers and the gum.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a theater in Seattle, that a comedy theater that I've performed at, where you enter underneath this. It's kind of like a cave-like tunnel that you enter, and people have started to put their chewed gum up, and now it's coated with chewed gum.
Oh,
it's so gross.
Yeah. That's the same with boogers. I feel like people who just like you just like running your hand down a railing or something, and you hit something kind of.
God, no, we're so gross.
Yeah, I was. I was thinking about, there's nothing worse than finding just a Kleenex out on your front lawn or something, and have to pick that Kleenex up.
Because
I'd rather pick up a mask.
There's something in there.
Yeah. But it's where we live on a cul-de-sac, and the wind always blows a bunch of trash up here. So I'm picking up a lot of trash all the time. Because it gets caught in the cactuses and stuff. And there's something about, like, a Kleenex is just like, there's a part of the person still in there.
It's awful. It's just awful. You don't know what's been wiped on that Kleenex. Lots of things.
Yeah. And then finally, John, as we wrap up, just a real quick note. I came across an article on nose flutes. And there used to be flutes, and maybe they're still out there. This was talking about in Malaysia, people who would play the flute with their nose.
Oh, yes. Yeah. This is ringing a bell for me. I think I've seen some of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a little. It's not like long, right? It's like a thing that.
It's off to the side, like up against the nostril there, and then you play it off to the side. Yeah. And they say the reason.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, sorry.
No, I was going to say, they say the reason is that the mouth was for eating, and the nose was for breathing. And there's also this spiritual idea of like spirits coming to your body, or the divine coming to your body through the nose. Therefore, if you're playing a flute in a religious ceremony, you should play it with your nose.
That's interesting. Well, it's like, you meditate, you breathe in. Many of the exercises are breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. So the thing that blows me away about smell in general, the nose in general, is that we are just interpreting our environment through this thing that we call smell. But really what it is that different things, some things, give off, release certain different molecules.
Right.
And we inhale that molecule, and it hits a receptor. Yeah. And then we call that smell. But really, it's just a molecule it's just another way of of interpreting the world, but it's not. Whether it exists is only because of the way we interface with it.
Right.
Like smell doesn't exist in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's just that's our way of interpreting, giving us more information about what's happening.
Excellent. Professor Lehr, I think you have summed up this,
It's
this
so crazy.
episode.
There is no reality. There is no reality. It's just our way of interfacing with whatever this is.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And like I say, I had that professor who used to always say, like, he would use The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, to talk about culture. Of like, we have that, that culture is like the Matrix. That's the algorithm that's being run over it, that's interpreting everything that we're
So
seeing,
true.
which is what you were saying.
Wow. Well, this is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1, John McCray. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. If you enjoyed this podcast and found it interesting, please tell a friend about it. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook. And hopefully I'll figure out how to do Instagram sometime. That's my fault. And if you try to
get a nose hair trimmer too, that's our big lead. You know. And if you got a friend that's got some crazy hairs, tell them.
Tell them about it. Tell them about it. Those things need to be inside. Don't go on the offense with them trying to find pollens. The pollens will come to you, you know. So, all right, everybody. We love you. John, thanks for everything. Gesundheit, everybody.
Gesundheit.
We'll see you. Thanks.
Bye.